Dash versus Dash. Oh, we got it on here. Alejandro Cuevas. Alejandro Cuevas, Alex, as better known as, he's a newer player. He literally has worked around some of these people at the same Kingslayer store. Don't know if you've heard of Kingslayer Games. It's a store near Orange County. Alex saw everybody buy a bunch of cards for a year and was like, I don't know, not my game. I play these other games. He has recently gotten to Flesh and Blood. I think he has bought. Is that the right word?
Yeah. Bought.
Maybe 6 boxes. Every single one has the most pricey legendary of the set.
It's just within it.
He literally has not missed
That's
once.
how you get him, man.
And so he's like, this game is fun. I just get all these expensive cards, and I built all these decks already. And we're just like, yeah, that's not how it worked for us.
Yeah. My first box had a Shock Charmers, and I was in.
Ooh.
It's like, look at this.
Now that's 50
How does
bucks,
this?
you
Yeah.
know?
But at the time it was cool and shiny, and I.
We need some more lightning support, LSS.
Yeah.
Make channel Mountain Step. Make that. No, it's not even Mountain Step. Channel Thunder Step. People forget what that is. 2 Dash. No lightning cards happening here. Not until maybe Outsiders.
You'll notice that Aidan is rocking the Rainbow Foil Dash with the artist signature that was secured at the World Championships back in San Jose when we were able to take a trip over there.
You guys got there at 4 in the morning for playmats, right?
We got there. We were planning to get there at 4 in the morning. We wanted the World's. Aidan was desperate for the World's playmat, and we support our friend and teammate in all things.
Nice.
And we got there at 5:30 expecting there to be some kind of a line, and we're lucky enough to be the first. We brought a little wooden board, got some games in. A bunch of people came and joined and started playing games once the line formed. And I think most people who showed up got a mat, save for the unfortunate few at the very, very end. But we were very excited to secure the bag, as it were, because that mat is gorgeous. The MJ did an incredible job on all of the art, on the back of the cards, on most of the packaging, and seeing that world map in playmat form is.
Right. I got barraging beatdown. That's an 8 from Aidan, so we're not doing even odds. 8 versus 7. Aidan's like,
all right,
I'm thinking about it.
This is the question we were just talking about. What do you want to do in the mirror? I don't think Aidan has an enormous amount of experience within this mirror. He's played a bunch of different heroes now. He's been playing this hero since the game came out, but in our Tuesday night armories, there's not many Dash that show up.
No.
So he hasn't had this experience. It'll be good to see him learn on the fly.
I think what's interesting about the Tuesday night at Odyssey is we have just around 12, and everybody kind of plays a different hero. So it's interesting to get like, maybe you don't get the matchup every time, but it is kind of like, this is who you're getting experience against is the one Dash player or the one Icelander. 4 cards for both players to start off. You got a Tekla Pounder on one side, and somebody is doing the induction chamber. Put it in a weird spot. I thought he forgot about it, and I was like, ooh, that is a game-losing play.
It is a May trigger, so you'd hate to be the Dash who decides, you know what, I'm going to start this game in a losing position, but we're going to start off with a high octane right off the bat. It's going to be interesting to see how the 2 decks compare with the Tekla Pounder for Aidan and the induction chamber. That points to 2 pretty significantly different strategies going into the matchup.
I think it's interesting because Tekla Pounder and ripping the high octane on turn 1 means I think Aidan's going to be playing a very aggressive list.
For sure. And this high octane means this is a lot of damage being presented on this first turn.
But I'm going to block all 12 because I have 12 block in my hand unless there's an item. So Alex is probably like, sure, use one of your power cards against me.
Yeah, and boost another one away.
Yeah. Ooh, the high octane gets boosted. Hate to see it.
This is still going to represent some damage getting through because that Tekla Plasma Pistol is going to be able to come in with at least 2 shots depending on if any other resources are needed. We're going to use 1 on the zipper hit. So this is going to come in for 5. Oh, immediately losing the max velocity.
That's a card you're fine with losing because maybe that's a game-winning play if everything falls into place, but kind of I guess I just don't have access to this. Getting rid of a harpoon is great.
And seeing an armor block on one of these early turns is always surprising because
I think T-Bone probably good in some of these matchups, but you'd have to T-Bone
3 times to get there, yeah.
So maybe he's like, I don't really care about this armor.
So first we're coming in for that pistol shot for 2, seeing if he can bait the block out of his hand.
He's going to have option to pistol 3 times or just twice?
Depends on how many action points he has remaining.
He doesn't have induction chamber, so it'll just be 2 pistols. He'll say, go to 38, go to 36. Doesn't matter to me. I'm going to keep this card because I like it. Or tonight.
Another 34, yeah. So if that is an item in the hand, then that is the situation we were talking about, where you're caught with the non-block.
Pistol did come in 3 times because Zipperhead had go again. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, boom, boom. Shot, shot, shot.
So I think if you're Aidan here, you're happy. You blew the power card, but on the first turn of the game that often you don't find yourself in the position to leak any damage, it's 40 to 34. I think you're probably most of the times okay with that exchange, even if you prefer to set it up with the 5-card hand and come in for even more.
I think when you have 2 aggro decks, you are kind of like trying to figure out your break points of like, if we both go full force at each other, is that 6 damage going to make them under 10 quicker than I get to under 10, and then Alex will be forced to block quicker than Aidan's forced to block.
What's interesting, though, is with the induction chamber, how aggressive are we going to see Alex be? Is it going to be playing towards more of that quote-unquote pistol package with the plasma purifiers and the multiple chambers, or is this just the kind of flavor of the month aggressive-wise that we're going to be seeing from Alex?
And what's cool about Tekla Pounder is it represents basically 3 pistol shots added to attack actions. So because it's three instances of 2 added to your attacks. So Tekla Pounder versus Induction Chamber. Tekla Pounder is doing it automatically. Induction Chamber, you gotta feed it, and it takes 3 turns to get the same.
Yeah, and once that Tekla Pounder has done its thing and those counters are gone, you have to set up another one with either a Spark of Genius, pitching for 4, or you can just have it naturally in the hand.
0 to 60 red. There goes the Tekla Core boosted, which not your favorite one to see boosted. It's interesting he didn't block, so maybe there is a Tekla Core in hand from last
A
time.
non-block.
That would be a really cool card to be putting out there of like, all right, I'll have 2 resources even if I block with other cards from my hand.
We also saw on that first turn, Alex was forced to block with that Pulse Wave Harpoon, which we were talking about as potentially a really important card in all of these matchups, given that the effect is so punishing of being able to pick a card from the opponent's hand.
What's interesting, we got everybody, all your families.
They do.
We got some of your brother, we got a cousin, we got Aidan's brother or something. Aidan's cousin would be your okay, here comes our first harpoon. But this says only 2 block can be grabbed, which isn't going to be that great. Because this is his second boost. So it's going to be like, do you have a 2 block in hand? I don't think Dash has 2 blocks. And especially when you get to show the 2. Okay, I get some information about your hand, but not committed to the block. I think when you're Aidan, you're like, okay, 4 damage. I took it earlier, so maybe I'll take it again.
When you are the aggressor and you want to position yourself as the aggressor, often it's, can I represent more damage than you are representing? We have 2 resources floating and 1 card in hand. And again, if that card doesn't go to the arsenal, I think you're also happy as the aggro player because you know they're not setting themselves up for a 5-card hand.
Great. And then we see a take it to go to 32. So that had go again. So is he going to put 1 on the induction chamber, put 1 on the gun? Is he going to shoot or is he going to save it for next time? I feel like you always shoot. But
Spark for 0.
I'm going to go grab another Tekla Core. 1 got pitched, 1's in my arsenal, so there's, I've said that wrong thing. 1's in my banish zone, 1's pitched right now, so there's 1 more in my deck. And now I'll have 4 resources over the next 2 turns to play with.
Which is ostensibly similar to having the advantage of a card in your arsenal. You get to set yourself up for your next turn. And actually, because of the drawing a card effect on Spark of Genius, you will have that card in your arsenal regardless. So perhaps this is exactly how Alex wanted to set up this first turn. Yeah, we see the chat. We're working on Blake's mic. Thank you guys for giving us the heads up. I would not want to subject you all to just my voice and commentary for this entire time, so we will get that set up for you all.
Got an arsenal card from Alex. And draw up. So we know we got a Tekla Core, we got an induction chamber. BIOS update coming from Aidan, though. What does BIOS update do?
BIOS update with the +3 boost is going to be exactly on rate, a 0 for 3, but you have that really powerful effect of if you are able to boost an item away, it's going right into the arena. Some people feel like it's kind of a win more card, but regardless of the effect of the boosting of the item, you're still seeing the damage bonus that you would want to see from kind of exactly
like
on rate.
T-bone.
Yeah, on rate, go again attack. It's going to represent 9 damage here, 9 big ones.
Gross.
So, and again, that boost effect is going to last for the whole turn. If Aidan does want to boost a second card, we could see that he has another chance to hit one of those items. I think there's 3 Teklo cores unless one has been boosted, but I don't think so, and we should have at least 2 other pounders.
Right. Which is interesting because there's 5 slots in your deck of probably 50 cards left, so it's like 10% chance at best that BIOS Update gets you something in the arena. But I think when BIOS Update does help you grab an item, it just becomes so oppressive.
It does, yeah. I mean,
it feels like it's a win more, but who doesn't want to win more?
We all want to win more. That's why we're here.
Yeah. Alex must have some gas in his hand because he just said, I'll take it, and I'll take it.
Setting up the arsenal as well. I know Aidan was going back and forth on the efficacy of BIOS Update. He, I think, went down to a 2-of because he did find the effect to be rather inconsistent. But, again, when you hit it, you hit it.
Okay. So we have 2 free resources from the Teklo core.
5
card hands. Let's see what Alex has got because it's going to be gross. We're touching the gauntlet. We're flipping it over. Not putting in the chain. That's like some new player. Maybe I don't do the same stuff everyone else does. I got my items over here. But there is a Goliath gauntlet. It won't happen on the 0 to 60, but the next, well, losing a plasma purifier, which is an interesting card to have in the mirror.
And to show, yeah, it does show you a little more of what Alex was maybe playing towards in this matchup. Though what we've seen is by taking all that damage, you don't represent I'm attempting to block more and get to a point in the game where I get so much value out of my items that I can beat you with less cards.
Boosts
that is
away, a sink below, so we're going to have to use the shoes.
Which you have to imagine he's going to want to do. And yeah, he's pointing towards it right away. After taking so much damage, you can't afford to just have that be the end of your turn.
Aidan's take.
Aidan's up on the armor block because he hasn't blocked with that Teklo Foundry Heart, so he has another 4 life over there sitting on his equipment.
The reason you see the Goliath Gauntlet is because he's getting around the T-bone of, okay, cool, I'll show you a block that doesn't have Blade Break or Battle Worn, and just get around T-bone. The next T-bone, same thing with the shoes. We'll get around that one. It's just you need 3 T-bones to really mess with Aidan.
Aidan also working on his final counter on that Teklo Pounder, so you have to imagine he's going to want to represent a similar, if not more, amount of damage. Boost! Another 0 to 60. Have we seen the effect of the Goliath Gauntlet yet?
No. So I'm assuming there's going to be
a finisher.
Payload, which
dominate
is an interesting card.
Oh, just a maximum velocity for 12.
Like you weren't paying attention. We got a maximum velocity turn. This is gross. This is 12 damage.
So you have to imagine that armor would be a good option to block with. You could put one of that, either the arsenal card on the bottom of the deck, drawing a 5th card to add for pitch if you need more pitch, or you want to represent as much damage as you can if you're going to be taking this much.
I think it's interesting because we saw him take 11 damage last turn very quickly, and you're like, what could possibly be in his hand?
We should have thought max velocity. Yeah.
It's going to be the big one. And so we're going to block for 2.
Block for 2, taking
10. Does that mean he has his own maximum velocity turn? I think this is what we were talking about literally 8 minutes ago because this game is so fast. Is like
who's forced to block first?
Get your opponent to 10 first. So Alex is kind of doing that.
It's true.
So Aidan must have his own version of a Goliath Gauntlet attack with 5 cards. He doesn't have Teklo Core support, though.
He doesn't. He does have the Pounder, which is going to be another extra couple points of damage. It's going to be interesting to see which generates more value here, the 2 resources out of the Teklo Core or the 2 damage out of the Teklo Pounder.
Yeah. Goliath Gauntlet immediately. So we got the game plan.
And the High Octane right away.
High Octane. He shuffled his deck, so you are kind of like, how did you get another one so quick? He shuffled from Spark or no? That was the other guy.
I think that was Alex. I think this is just
strong
3 natty octanes off the top.
Jeez.
So immediately we're seeing, again, represented the Goliath Gauntlet showing I'm expecting a big turn. I took a bunch to do it, so we'll see how much Alex wants to block.
Throttle's going to have Gauntlet and Teklo, so this is going to be gross. He's like, Alex is like, please tell me how much this is. Aidan's like, I'm going to get the dice. 10. You can't really take this off because then all the leverage you just had evaporates.
With 3 more cards available, 2 in the hand and 1 in the arsenal. Right. You have to imagine more damage is being represented, especially because the High Octane, once again, every boost allows for 2 damage coming in from the pistol.
So we're blocking 3 from this. I think what's interesting is Alex has kind of said that, he's bottoming a card from his arsenal because that's what Crown of Providence lets you do. Maybe that's another card he wants to block with, of taking his turn from 5 cards to 5 blocking cards. Because one thought process maybe here is Alex is on the pistol version of this, so maybe I can block out my opponent and just shoot him for 4 every turn.
Yeah.
And two guns coming in at 2 each is hard to block.
Now, the Spark of Genius here would normally represent the end of the turn, but that high-octane effect working off of the throttle boost is going to allow this Spark of Genius to grab an item, probably a Techlocore because it's for 0, and then allow Aidan to draw another card and keep going. So he's not only setting himself up for the future, but he's basically turning that Spark of Genius into a new card and a Techlocore on the battlefield.
Yeah. Future, present. I guess there's no past cards yet where you could bust out like, oh, if I have 10 cards in my boost zone, I get to do something from the past. Maybe that's an Outsiders. Who knows? He's closing the chain. That makes sense.
Spark of Genius.
He played a non-attack action after some attacks. He's thinking about it. He's drawing. He's going to touch his shoes in a second. Because he still has action points. He doesn't.
He has
have
one
to
action
shoot.
point. He's not banked any at this point, but another boost will allow him to then from here.
He's looking at his Techlocore of I have 2 based on this 2 thing. Maybe it makes more sense to have 2 Techlocores.
Shout out to the Metrics metagame for those tokens. I know Aidan was really excited to secure some of those at Worlds as well.
0 to 60 coming in. This looks like a blue strip, which isn't the most powerful, but
Does represent a pistol shot.
another pistol coming later when he has a blue in hand. So we're hoping for a 0 to 60. We're hoping for a 0 cost in Arsenal and then a blue. And then that'll be a bunch of pistol damage. Harpoon.
Paul's Wave Harpoon is good here. I believe
Harpoon costs 1.
he's boosted 3 times, so this now represents 4 more damage from the
Is
pistol.
it boost on the chain or boost on the turn, though?
That I'm not
That's
sure.
a card you got to have memorized. These guys do because they play this hero. I'm not sure if it matters per turn or chain.
And what's important about that is all of Dash's cards block for 3. So if it's just on the chain, there's going to be no
None of those
legal
are coming,
targets.
So it's just chain. So there's only 2 currently boosted cards on the chain, so none of those will be able to be taken out of hand. Alex is like, as long as you don't kill me, I get the first crack at around 10 life.
With the Techlocore.
But I'm going to shoot a gun 2 more times for 4 each.
Well,
2.
And he actually, if he has 3 action points here, yes, he's going to the Foundry Heart. This is allow him to bank another resource and shoot
the
again.
3 times. There we go. That's the first use of Techlo Foundry Heart this game. If you're not familiar with that, that means you can flip over the top 2 cards. It costs 1, so you're only really ever getting 1 resource, but it's like having a Tunic on demand if you banish cards.
And once again, now Alex is taking the damage to try to represent the lethal at the crackback. Aidan does have the armor advantage, so he's ostensibly at around 14, which Alex must be taking into account as he's deciding what damage to take. Because right now he is just going down and trying to represent that lethal on the crackback.
Because if these gunshots get him to 2, it's oppressive. 4, he has room to play around. So for the first time ever, we're going to see some blocks this turn because they have to.
Aidan did set himself up very nicely with that Techlocore too. Even if he can only keep 2 cards here, those resources might allow him to play either 2/1 costs or a shoot with his pistol at the end of a chain. So we'll see how these players want to go into what will most likely be some of the final turns of this game.
Techlocore pops. I've got my own high octane. I hope you're ready for this.
That's going to be effective
Draw a
here.
card. He's putting it in the discard pile because I think that's maybe a thing that newer players do of hasn't been around to see like, we usually leave it out to present it until it closes a chain. But do know that that high octane is currently going. If you were on Talishar, there'd be a box in the bottom right that says, is it bottom left?
Bottom left.
Who cares? It's currently active, so anytime he boosts, we're going to have another action point. Which he needs about 15 damage to pressure Aidan's life and
Force him to block with a card.
yeah. Because 4 plus 4 plus 4 would be 12, and then 2 guns afterwards would be 16. That's kind of what I'm expecting to see. Throttle's a bigger one.
Alex has access to that Foundry Heart as well, so as long as he ends this turn with 1 resource, he can make that double those resources and come in for the pistol shots at the end of this chain.
6 damage attack from I think another thing, when you're in the mirror right now, you're like, oh crap, I don't want to get payloaded for game. So you can't go down to under 4.
And that might be what Aidan's thinking about right now as he just blocks this throttle out. That armor could have been used on the payload if he is worried about it, but until it's represented, sometimes you just have to say, you know what? Do you have it? I'm going to make you have it here.
Crown of Providence coming in here. Maybe he's getting rid of an item because he wants to have more flexibility with blocks. Maybe he's getting rid of a red card because he wants blues to make sure he has enough to pitch something. You never know. Maybe your red card is stronger right here. And I think what's interesting, a 4 damage attack does present lethal. There's no more armor.
Yeah.
So Alex is in a even 1 card left in your hand makes me nervous.
And without the induction chamber on the field, and we've now seen all 3 high octanes from Aidan. We've seen 1 boosted away, 1 played on the first turn, and 1 played on the last turn. So that pistol is coming in for only 2 damage on this next turn. There's no way to gain any other action points. There's no way to gain go again. So Alex also probably is taking into account that there's one of the payloads.
Payload is going to come. You don't really want to see that when you're using your Tekla Foundry Heart, but up to 3 resources. We're going to be able to shoot pistol a couple times. Still got 3 cards in hand. I was not even aware of this. I was aware. I think one of those looks like a 4 block.
Potentially.
So that'll go in Arsenal and probably be something that Alex can use to get ahead in this in-game.
Looks like we have another induction chamber and a sink below. So this turn will not be that effective in terms of dealing damage from Alex here, unless he wants to sink a lot of resources into the pistol. But you have to wonder, is it going to be enough to take the cards out of Aidan's hand to, again, not be able to threaten the lethal on the following turn?
Right. And I think that's something where, whether you're a new player or an old player or seasoned vet, whatever they're called, it is something where when you choose a strategy of let me sink below to get ahead of some of this stuff, when you draw it on your kill turn, it is like you're almost beating yourself. Well, my sink below, one of them got boosted. Now it's in my hand during a kill turn.
Yeah.
If I had just trusted and believed that I don't want to play the more defensive version, I want to go straight at this other dash player, maybe Alex would be in a better situation right now.
Indeed.
Aidan says, I'll go to 7. I'm not afraid of a payload. I just saw one get boosted.
Which also gives Aidan some information. If he did think to himself, is my opponent running payload? By seeing it boosted, he now can take that into account as he moves forward in the turn. As this pistol is going to come in, looks as though that's going to come in for 2 damage. And
pitching an induction chamber is not a good strat, but sometimes you have to. We got our first pistol shot. There's going to be 3 of these. So if Aidan says, I'll take all 3, he'll be down to 1. Pistol shot number 2.
It's interesting to see.
Aidan's like, okay, no more blocks. What is my shoes going to do? I think there's a thing of, this is where you're clenching your cards as hard as possible, and you're saying, he would have played a better card by now if he had it.
Yeah, I thought you might have meant clenching other parts of.
And now he's got 3 cards, 2 resources from our whatchamacallit. A sink below is going in Arsenal. I saw it. Alex is like, okay, I'll block 4 of this.
And perhaps that sink below allows you to turn an item that's a non-block into your hand into what will almost for sure be a block 3, but we're going to see what this Tekla core is allowing Aidan to do, because now at even life totals, Aidan has the gas. You need to, once again, force your opponent to block here so that all armor is gone. We're face up in terms of what...
Oh, that's where he's representing. So the Tekla core has 2 blue things because he has 2 turns of it.
Precisely.
Which is an interesting way to represent that.
It's a lot of those resource coins.
Yeah. He must have been like, give me all your blue resources. Okay. Throttle red.
Immediately using those resources from the Tekla core, getting that value, and also not giving your opponent any other information about the cards in your hand.
Have to block 2. Because if you go down to 1, you just lose the payload. Sorry, Alex, you got to give 2 cards here.
Let's see what he chooses to do. He has that sink below.
I think I would love to bait the payload of, oh, I'm only really blocking 2. Okay, you know that he doesn't have a payload now because we did the zipper hit. Boosting it, getting rid of that card. That's fine because that's not going to happen in the end game. It's a great card to boost away, actually.
Indeed, you're not unhappy if you're Aidan to see that one go. At this point, it's unlikely you're going to be left with enough cards in your hand to get that maximum velocity off. Once again, demanding a block, though the pistol shot that comes at the end of this is not going to cause a block from Alex.
Alex has to use the sink below here. There you go.
Take the one.
Don't commit from hand because you're getting greedy if you want more than a better block that way. So you are taking 1. You're both at 3.
Looks as though we missed a point of damage on the last turn.
Or
the judge might have caught
somebody clicked
that.
the wrong one. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see if we can see that Aidan at least is taking track of his life on his life pad there, so they'll be able to check if there was any mistakes made.
Gun takes him to 1.
To 1 here, keeping a 2-card hand.
Enough.
With no.
Oh, I'm gonna use.
Oh, look at that,
forgot about the
Aidan!
shoe. Shoot him again. I need one of those cards, or you're dead.
This is why he's the dash player, and we're sitting yards away.
We always know about the shoes.
Yeah, come on.
You have to let somebody who's watching in Lower South Carolina feel like there's some kind of stakes.
What do you have against Lower South Carolina?
I'm shouting them out twice.
That's true. That's true. Now, what's interesting is
I prefer them.
This was only available to Aidan because he was able to keep the boots around, unlike Alex, who had to use them after that sink below was boosted away on his turn. You have to wonder, are those sink belows doing what you want in this matchup, or is even the chance of having to use the boots in an inefficient way enough to... Because now Aidan only needs to block with 1 card here to stay alive, because he does not have the opportunity to present that extra kind of sneaky attack, almost like using your Silken Form and Dromai to push at Aether Ashwing when your opponent doesn't expect that they have to take another point of damage.
So gun for 2, maybe you're taking it, and then gun for 2 you're blocking, and then you're saying Teklo Core plus my 3 cards can get there.
Alex representing, I'm done. I'm face up. This is what I got. What do you got? And we will see in just a moment, what does Aidan got?
And I think that's a thing where maybe newer players haven't shown up to a big tournament where you do lose the game in sideboarding. Of a decision I made to be more defensive can bite me. A decision to put the non-mechanologist cards can be. And somebody who knows more about this is like, Sink Below is actually better. I think that's a thing where, okay, well, Aidan said, let's see.
Yeah.
And Aidan's going to most likely have the ability to attack at his opponent being at 1 health with like 3 attacks, which when Dash has the magic Dash has is usually enough. Perfect block. We're never using that card again. And it's a no-brainer block. I love no-brainer blocks when you're at the end game.
Yeah,
of
like, well, I know I'm doing this.
I know I'm not doing the wrong thing.
And Alex, for being a new player, has played this game rather well with some very tight sequencing, allowing himself to represent enough damage to put the players here at even life, although once again, as we talked about, it's kind of the first player to really blink in these kind of aggressive matchups because we haven't seen Alex play towards that defensive mindset that perhaps the induction chamber might have shown a tendency for, shown an indication of at the beginning of the game. And so you'll wonder if at the end of this game he, depending on the results, is going to look back and say to himself, do I want the pounder, or if I'm going to go with this induction chamber, do I need to be more defensive to truly get the value out of my choice? We're on a second turn of this Teklo Core, which is going to, I think, be huge here for Aidan. Every breakpoint requires 2 blocks now, which very likely will be able to close this game out.
2 cards. We boosted it.
With that Teklo Foundry Heart, he's probably going to have enough resources here to...
Now, Zipper Hit. Is that a breakpoint that has 4? It is.
It is. That's 2
Give
cards.
Me 2 cards.
This is going to be it, folks.
Shoot a pistol for game. 1, 2. Nothing left. It works out for Aidan. And Alex is probably like, okay, what can I learn from this? Maybe I played it the right way, but that Dash got 1 point ahead of me. I think this is a great, maybe this is why you show up to tournaments like this, because you will have this as a literal video of your game of like, let me go check every single thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just draw the cards in the wrong order. Maybe there was one time he could have been more aggressive. I don't really think so based on what we saw.
We didn't.
It felt like they played their hands.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, Aidan drew the power cards of High Octanes and leverage them.
And that High Octane at the beginning of the game actually mattered an enormous amount. That 6 damage that Aidan was able to push on a turn that often you don't get any damage leaked through, or if you do, maybe 2 or 3, unless you're playing a banishing hero like Rhinar. It's interesting to see that that turn ended up being so effective on that turn 1.
Aidan's smiling. I love that from seeing like, okay, I'm showing up to a tournament. I'm excited. But Alex isn't not smiling either. There's a pump. What is it called? A fist bump?
Yeah, it's called a fist bump.
Everybody's happy. I think one thing, too, is like, okay, Aidan's at a tournament. Maybe one of his first – this isn't a pro quest or anything, but it is.
Yeah.
It's that kind of competitive of Aidan's 2-0, feeling himself. I'm not scared of people. I've beat one of the best players in the world, and now I beat a Dash matchup. So 2 wins away from getting a top 8 spot and getting some points to do all this in August as well.
And he knew he had to represent 3 floating. After we took a tough L in the first round, Aidan had to come in here and show what we're about so that people know what we know what we're talking about.